So today we're just going to have a quick look at transferring images from, on this occasion we're going to use wrapping paper, which is just this roll of very cheap wrapping paper. I picked it up at Hobbycraft. It was on sale for £1, and I just wondered when I saw it if I could use it for transferring. It's very, very pretty, and it contains a whole load of my favourite colours. I love the citrus green and the teal. But I'm just, because it's so cheap, it's so thin, I really don't know if it will transfer. So we'll give it a try, give it a test and see what happens. On this occasion I'm going to be transferring it straight to blonde wood, plain wood, and I'm going to be using Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel. So it's straightforward. You just get some gel on your brush, place it onto the item, or this has been used for demonstrations before and it is not pristine. Just pretend it is the best way forward. So I need a fairly thick coat, but evenly spread out. And then it's the ink side that goes down onto the wood. So give that a coat, place it down over your glue, and then we need to spread it out because we want no air between the ink and the wood. If it's not attached, it won't transfer. So I'm using this little, as you'd say in America, handy dandy tool. I don't know where it came from, I don't know what it's off, but it's perfect. Equally, a credit card would do the job. Because I've used this wood before, it's got a piece of double-sided sticky tape up the middle, and it's not making the job easy. But fundamentally, that's it. You've squashed all the, actually at this side I haven't just quite got enough, so I'll just go back in, put some more on, and make sure that it's all stuck, that you've got all this surplus glue out and your paper is adhered firmly to the wood. I'll just wipe that off, wipe down the sides. Now you just have to leave that to dry and then come back to me and we'll have a look at taking it off and see what we get, see if it works at all. So this is a piece of wrapping paper that that you watched me stick on earlier. It's now perfectly dry, and so we're just going to see if it works. First thing to do is just wet the paper. And you'll see the pattern coming through. So that's pretty wet, but it's not swimming, it's not too wet. And then just start rubbing. What we want to do is get the paper pulp off the back and leave the pattern of the paper on the wood. And you'll feel as you start to rub, it just starts to come away. Keep your fingers damp, but not too wet. So you see the pulp coming away. It is a bit time consuming, this method, but when it works, it's stunning. So carry on gently. Last thing you want to do is take the pattern off. So just carry on gently like that. It does affect the pattern greatly what you've actually transferred the pattern onto, and generally I would advocate that you've painted this white beforehand, and therefore you'll get maximum light through your transfer and it'll show up much better. This is coming off quite nicely actually. But we've got nothing like the vitality that we would have had I painted the wood white beforehand. In fact, I will paint some wood white and do another transfer just to show you the difference that it makes. I mean, this is coming off really nicely. And I am getting virtually all of that paper pulp off. But it's in no way as vibrant as it should be, really. You can see when you think you've got it all off, you absolutely haven't. You really need to go back in. Sometimes leave it till it's dry. See the difference? That looks like I've had the paper pulp off there, but when you go back in, it really shows it up nicely. Sometimes it's a good idea to get the first layer off and leave it till it dries, and then go back in and take the second layer off. This wrapping paper is standing up remarkably well to this rubbing. I don't seem to have any losses at the moment anyway from the pattern. Let's concentrate on this and see if we can bring this up a little bit. There you go. Once you get the pulp away, you can see the pattern. I'll leave it like that. I'll carry on and finish that, but I'll also prepare a piece of white painted wood and put the transfer on that, and you'll see the difference. It will be remarkable. But all in all, I'm quite pleased the way this wrapping paper, for all the cheap and flimsy paper, it's standing up really well. I'll show you the finished results anyway once I get them all side by side and we can have a comparison. Right, hello again. Today we're looking at transferring images. There are many ways of doing this. A lot of people use Mod Podge and have really good results. Some people use Liquitex gel. You can use wallpaper. Hopefully wrapping paper, which is what I'm trying to show you today. And for my medium, I've used Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel. It's a white glue ostensibly, but it always seems to work for me, and if it works, why change it? So this was the one that I did earlier, and I did it straight onto the wood, and as you can see, the grain of the wood is still showing through. Now there are times that you would want that to happen and you'd be very pleased with that result. I wanted to see if I could get it brighter, more like the actual wrapping paper itself, which I was drawn to because of the bright colours, the jewel-like colours. So I've painted a background of white, Fusion Casement white, so it's nice and bright. I've stuck another piece on just as I did earlier, just as I showed you earlier. There's no tricks to it really. You just have to make sure you've got any air out between the thing you want to transfer and the thing you want to transfer onto, because if it's not touching, the ink is not going to transfer. So let's give it a try, see if it works. And once again, you just need to moisten the paper. Don't overly wet it. I think if you overly wet it, you run the risk of the ink lifting. But you do need it damp, so you start to see the image coming through the paper, and you know that you've got the paper pulp damp. So let's start to rub it and see what happens. Just circular motions, quite firmly, but not too firmly. And you'll see that the pulp starts to come away from from the ink, leaving the ink behind, hopefully adhered to the wood that we've painted white. This edge here hasn't been stuck to anything, and so if you carry on like that on the edge, it'll just tear off like that. Well, this is looking slightly more promising already. I would recommend really for most things that you put a white or a very light background behind it to allow you to see the image. On occasions when I've done this, I did one with some old maps. Well, actually they weren't, it was brand new tissue paper, but I wanted them to look aged. And what I did was, just before I stuck the image down, I just went round the corners with a chocolate brown, watered down chocolate brown paint. So when I put the map on, it looked like the edges were aged, and I had quite good results with that. It is time consuming, this. It's nothing to do if you're in a hurry, but it's quite pleasing, it's quite satisfying. And some girls do the whole fronts of wardrobes, chest of drawers, and they get amazing results. And chaps too, I'm not being discriminatory here. But it's not something that you think, oh, I'm in a hurry, I'll do that. Just relax into it. Now, I think we can already see here really that result, I haven't touched this side as you know, but this result, by comparison to this one, there's a huge difference. I mean, this looks gorgeous. Can you imagine this on a piece that's painted, well, dare I say it, purple? Purple's apparently the colour of the year. Wouldn't that look lovely on drawer front? Let's carry on for a bit further. And really, once I get this bulk of the paper pulp off, and you think, oh, that's great, I've finished. If you leave it and walk away from it, you come back and it will have gone misty again, it'll have gone cloudy. And that's an indication that there's still more paper pulp on there that needs to come off. So you keep going until you've got it all off, until when you leave it and you come back to it, it's still looking bright. It does take time, as I say. Just be patient with it. And when it's finished, when you've got all the pulp off and you're quite happy that all the pulp is off, there's no more to come off, then you need to protect it. It's not going to be durable enough on its own without some sort of protection. I tend to varnish mine. I use varnish over them. I generally use General Finishes, high performance varnish. Ronseal's good. Whatever varnish you normally use, really, but it does need protection. I think you'll agree that's quite a nice result on that. See, the pulp still coming off, even although you think that you've done quite well. You haven't really got it all. What can happen sometimes on images that you've printed yourself, and you must print them out from a laser printer, don't print them from an inkjet printer. The ink isn't fixed, it'll wash out. So on your laser printed images that you're about to transfer, you will get, invariably you will get some losses when you're doing this. You get bits that just haven't stuck properly or whatever, you've been a bit rough with it or whatever. That's kind of part of it. This is part of transferring an image, really. That to me is slightly, maybe even too perfect. It would perhaps benefit from just having a sanding block rubbed over it. Just knock it back a bit so it looks a bit more organic, a bit more real, and in keeping with the age of the piece that you're doing. But fundamentally, that's it. I'll leave that now, and when I come back I know that it'll be cloudy again and that I'll need to knock some more paper pulp off it. I think you agree that's a pretty good result, really.